welcome to Check It Out, Comrade, an indie game podcast where every 2 weeks we bring you 2 indie games and tell you what we like about them. I'm Nick Lauper.
I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this week we're doing Ichi and Inside.
It's the I special.
I special.
Yes. It is, they're both puzzle games.
Yeah.
But very different puzzle games. So let's talk about Ichi first for reasons that will become obvious like super fast.
Yeah, very clearly. So, so Ichi is, this isn't a Wikipedia page, but I'm pretty sure it's available on Steam and on mobile.
Yes.
Seems a very, very, very mobile accessible game. It's a puzzle game, 2D overhead, kind of with this like pen and paper, graph paper style. But the base mechanics of it are about reflecting this little ball that kind of will bounce off flat edges and go at a right or move 90 degrees to any angles it hits. So it's about sort of bouncing a little yellow ball into its little yellow hole.
Yes, while collecting little nuggets on the way.
Yep.
Little rings. There are a couple of super minor other wrinkles to it where there are you can make the ball that you're shooting form a line to reflect off of, and there are teleporters as well. But it's just a one-button puzzle game. I'm trying to think of what would be a good thing to compare it to. It doesn't feel that revelatory or unique to me.
No.
It feels like there's lots of things that are more or less just like this.
This is definitely very similar to a lot of Flash games that people are just trying to create simple puzzle games because that's easy to do in Flash and a very popular thing to do on sites like Congregate and stuff.
Yeah. And we chose to cover it for the show, not because of I didn't know anything about it other than the fact that it's pretty well regarded and it was dirt cheap on the Steam sale.
Exactly.
Where we're getting some stuff and we wanted things that are kind of simple. I don't like this game.
No, I'm not particularly fond of it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty... This is like my least favorite kind of puzzle game. Like this episode, there's going to be a lot of just kind of generalities about puzzles that like kind of come out. But like, yeah, I like puzzles. I like puzzle games. This is really like... So the way that Ichi ramps up its difficulty, like it starts off very simple. But the way that difficulty works in Ichi is just ramping up the complexity of the map that you're moving through to try to pit the complexity of the map versus your ability to plan ahead.
Right.
And what that ends up meaning is that there's a lot of trial and error. Like you end up having a large map with lots of moving parts. You go ahead and let the ball go. You kind of make your best guess at the beginning of it. You die 2/3 of the way through. You try again. There's one little wrinkle. So it does that, which I don't like.
Yeah. I think that might be the biggest failing of it too, is the actual failure stage in it. Like this could very easily be just a puzzle game where you can like kind of trap yourself by getting your ball in the wrong position, and then it'd be like your own fault and not to go that route the next time. But this is just like as a hurdle, they make you restart. It's like, oops, you didn't turn this in time, and now you're gonna run to the spikes and start.
That's
over.
A total other problem too. Like I don't like puzzle games with a reflex element. We talked about this with the Talos principle as well, where like there are a couple levels where it involves like sprinting and getting to something in time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that really has very much of a place in a puzzle game.
Yeah,
that bums me out. And here it is. There are times where you have to kind of click the rotate 3 times, and you have to do it very quickly. Right. To rotate things, because you can't rotate them both ways. It's not a Tetris block. You can only rotate them clockwise. So if you don't do that in time or you accidentally rotate once, you just fuck up the whole run. And it just wastes your time.
Yeah.
Like it does the thing where there are degrees of success, which I like. Mm-hmm. You can do it in the fewest number of moves as a challenge if that's what you want. It gives you a ranking at the end. Yeah. That is good. But it just like I didn't play it for very long. I played like the first like 15 or 20 screens.
Right.
And just got to the point where they were just really complicated, these elements kind of mixing together, which is what you want in a puzzle game. But since it is so deterministic, it's just watching this thing bounce. I just got sick of plotting it out in advance and just planning my picks.
Right.
I guess I could see it being better on mobile, just because the bar is lower. Mm-hmm. But I think that it just this is like kind of does a lot of things I don't like in puzzle games. Aesthetically it's fine, a concept it's fine, but it just does not do very much.
I think this actually highlights a problem with how Steam does it. So the reason why I picked this up, like we said, is just it was like highly reviewed on Steam and ultra cheap, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem with how Steam ratings work is you either have to say like it was good or it was bad, and there's no in between. So most people are just like, yeah, this is fine, right?
Yeah.
And that's what their rating is. And because so many people are like, yeah, this is fine, there's no like huge problems with it. It's not, maybe not all that exciting, but there's nothing like to be ecstatic about. It gets a very positive review overall.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's even if you were able to rate it kind of middle of the road, it would still be something we might check out just because we needed something simple to pair with like a narrative game we were both going to complete.
Right.
The other aspect of it that I messed around with a very little bit is level creation and level sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So if this thing if it has anything unique to it, that's it. That's the idea, is that you can share levels and kind of do some Mario Maker style stuff. And I messed around with the level design a little bit. And it doesn't, the other thing it kind of, I feel like, fails at is that Mario Maker, like the trick to Mario Maker is that in Mario Maker, the game is making levels. You're not making levels so you can play other people's levels or so other people can play yours. That's fun. But the actual game is learning game design. Like, that's the fun part. And it wasn't very fun to make levels for this.
Well, and it's just too mechanically simple. Like, it's just going to be a tile map editor of place this there, and then make sure
it feels an afterthought. Like,
the
whole thing feels like, it could be like a Genesis game or something like that. Like, it's very like early DOS game. And simplicity is good in puzzle games, but this is just like the kind of, if you break up puzzle games into roughly like things like environmental puzzle games like Portal and Inside and Talos Principle, and then kind of reflex based puzzle games like Tetris and this
Super Hexagon.
Super Hexagon's like more just a reflex game in general.
It's an arcade game, but
like Columns, Luminous, and this would fall in that category probably. But it's an execution of it I don't like.
Yep.
So, I would skip it. No, it is, I'm sure the person who made it's not a bad person and is, making a simple game as an early thing is pretty cool. It flows really well. It's aesthetically attractive, but does not have a good enough hook and is too tedious to play, I think.
Yeah, it is very, very mobile.
Yes.
It does not fight that label.
Yeah. So we had to, lesson to us, in the future as far as like being careful with stuff that we pick. That's like, I'm not sad I played it, and I'm not sad I spent 99 cents on it. It's just there's not much to talk about. It's like chew potato-y. It's like, this is parsley. It's like we have a steak game and a parsley. You know? Is too little. But the nice thing is the game we paired it with is much more robust and worth talking about.
Yeah, this is some serious stakes. So let's get to that. That is Inside. So Inside was just released on Windows July 7th. Xbox One got a little bit earlier date at June 29th, and those are the two platforms it's available by. And this is a puzzle platformer by Playdead, the guys who created Limbo.
Yeah, and I should say, just in the spirit of disclosure, I was given a copy of this. The people who made this like Bonfireside Chat.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it was very nice of them.
That is very nice.
Yeah, thank you guys. It did not influence my kind of thoughts because I really love this game.
Right.
So and to not to prove that, but just to give it backstory. Like, I'm not the biggest Limbo guy. Like Limbo, I played Limbo at the time when I was pretty sick of puzzle platformers, and I was just kind of like, I feel like this genre, like I played it like shortly after Raid, which is a very different game, but I was just kind of sick of environmental, like how do I get to the other end of the screen in a platforming environment. And the story in Limbo is cool and the visuals are cool, but what didn't feel like it added up to much. Whereas Inside is like really up there with like my favorite games we've done for this show this year, and maybe like it would be like top 5 probably just in general for the show. Like, Inside's excellent.
Yep. And just for the counterpoint, Playdead did not give me a copy of this game. I paid for it outright, and I loved Limbo. Yeah. So that is where the two of us are coming from.
Yeah. And this is very similar to Limbo. The things that are the way it plays is really similar. The difference for me, the reason why this is better in my mind, is just kind of how it culminates. Where it adds up to. But we'll get to that. We'll have a spoiler section. Yeah. Where we talk about that. And for now, though, just kind of the premise. You are a kid. It is a really masterful example of like environmental storytelling, and there's no words, there's no dialogue in this game.
It's so fucking good.
There's a couple of numbers that show up that are not important to puzzles or anything. It is just you are a kid, you are being chased by like what seems like the government, in the woods, and you go from left to right, just trying to make progress.
Yes.
You go up and down as well, but you're just trying to get to the other end of the world, either through kind of brief stealth sections, brief chase sections, and for the most part, puzzle sections where you have to utilize the environment to get through with your very, very simple verb set of, jump and push and pull for most of the game.
Yep. And to set the sort of story you get right off from the beginning, in terms of the government stuff, there's these gentlemen dressed in all black wearing white face masks who are one, chasing you with their dogs and themselves, and are not very big fans of you. If you are caught, you get a unique death animation for each scenario, which is ridiculous.
That are like lovingly crafted.
They're so lovingly crafted,
to be
and
like
some of them
brutal
disgusting.
And really, really intense.
It is intense. The first time the dogs get you is fucking horrifying. But they are also seemingly collecting up people who are utterly still and somewhat limp. Like they're standing, but they're kind of just there's no expression in them. They're not active in any sense of the fashion. So you see like vans stuffed with people in the back as these guys are closing them up while you're trying to escape them through some forest. So
yes,
that is where you start off in the game.
Yeah,
and it just gets crazier from there. So that's probably all we'll try and say about the actual story stuff that's going on in the background until we get to the spoiler section.
Yeah, you don't. You get just little hints that things are wrong. Early on, that are like, you never get like a full kind of story as to what's happening, but you do get this sense like things are wrong, and not least which, I mean, because people are being animated and moved around. But also just kind of in the backgrounds and everything, which is really, really elegant and cool. Some things that are generality, they're not spoiler wise, that we can talk about. There are like, this does a little bit of that thing I was talking about with Ichi that pairs well with it, which I don't like, where like your completion of a puzzle is based on your reflexes.
Yes,
that's not super fun for me. And there are a couple times where that happens, where like I know my head knows what to do, my hands just can't do it in time. There are bonus objectives throughout the game where you have to go and flip a switch, and these play into an alternate ending, which we'll talk about.
Right.
And getting some of those are reflex based, in a way that I got bummed out by. Like I got the only times I got frustrated. It's a really breezy game. It's about 3 hours. You should 100% play it. So don't listen to the spoiler section unless you've already played it.
Yeah,
but
please.
There are a couple of those moments where it's like the times where it didn't go down super easy were getting some of these bonus objectives where it was timing based. And that's not my favorite thing. Not a lot of that, just a little bit of it. But enough to where when it happened, it was noteworthy because it didn't happen very often. Yeah.
There's a couple timing based puzzles that are in the main line as well, but those are a little more breezy than the optional objective ones. But there are a couple that they still involve a lot of reflexes, but mostly they're trying to get across the puzzle has to do with timing and not so much your actual reflexes. But there's still a couple where, as best as I could time it, it was still close enough that I failed the first couple times and barely made it by a hair on the neck.
Yeah. Some of those, it's just like when I know what to do and my reflexes just aren't good enough, doesn't feel really in the spirit of like what's happening. And those are, I mean, the thing is though, for a game that has 3 hours, there's a pretty startling variety of objectives and things you're doing. A lot of like kind of unique gimmicks and these things, and any of these mechanics that are, if you're not super into it, before long it will go away. The game is not hard. That's something I love about it. Even getting the optional objectives is not like, here's a Steven sausage roll style like brain melter.
Right.
It's not, the point of this game is not to be the most challenging puzzle game you've ever had. You played, like I sat down and played it in one sitting and really didn't run into any points of friction really. Nothing, it was, the longest I spent on a puzzle was a couple minutes. It's mostly a mood and narrative delivery kind of device.
And it's so good.
It's really good at that. Yeah. What else? I mean, I feel like we should do, if there's anything else, just to convince people. What would you say if you're trying to convince somebody to play this without spoiling back half
I think
stuff?
that, I mean, we've talked about how great the environments are and everything, but this game is the best animation I've seen in any game,
Yes.
I think, ever. The movements of everything are just so fluid, and this kid is the most kid-looking thing I've ever seen in a fictional piece. Like, it is Pixar quality, expressing age and sort of a mindset through animation that I've never seen in a video game.
Yeah. There's one specific sequence, and people talked about it a lot on the Slack channel, that is the most impressively animated thing I've seen in a game. And this is up there, like, with professional, like, AAA quality studios,
Oh, yeah.
Like, the animation, there's something I think about a lot. There's an extra credits episode about the animation for the Wii Punch-Out game, which is a really impressively animated game.
Right.
I think I did like a 10-minute breakdown of like, this is why this is amazing. And it's a really great breakdown. Everyone should watch it. This is up there with that.
Yeah.
It is just really, really good looking. Everything's silhouette reads really well, because you need to know what is going to be a hostile and what is a non-hostile agent. Uses audio cues really well to that effect. There's a very, very small amount of like doing something and having it get you killed before you know what's up. But the checkpointing is so generous. And you can actually, the way that it does, if you had played this I went back to it to check out a couple scenes.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed this, Nick. Every fucking game should do this. The way that you load your game is like a slider, like a fast forward on a VCR.
Yeah.
You can go to any point in the game. It's like it auto saves every screen, and you can just go to it by moving. You can watch the whole story and fast forward by holding right and across this timeline.
It is really, really good. And it allows you to recognize like where each level is, because like you said, each thing's like a freeze frame, so it's very clear at projecting this previous part of the game you're in, because it's a screenshot of that part of the game. But you can tell they're not, like, I don't think that any of this is there's no like, this is what you did and so it's a different path from anyone else, so each of these is going to be the same for everyone. But they purposely snapshot the game on like a real clear indication of what the scene is, and you'll recognize it instantly going through all the previous portions that you have been through. So if you want to go replay a puzzle, you'll have no problem finding it, even though there's no names or labels or text or anything.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah, I went back through to get the secret ending. I had to go back and get a couple of the puzzle pieces, and the fact that I could just like go back to the scene and get the piece and do that for each of the ones I was missing, and then go back to the last portion you need to go to for the secret ending, and everything, it was like my state was just exactly as I expected. I didn't have to like get to the next checkpoint after completing this so that it would save and know that I had accomplished that goal or anything. The second I pulled the plug from the power thing for the each of these engines that you need to get for the alternate ending, it was the state was saved. I'm good now. I can exit out, go back to the main menu.
It saves it for your game. Like, it's like, that's the canon. The canon version is you got that. You're rewriting it, so you don't have to worry about like fiddling with saves and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much more sugar we can wax about stuff that isn't gonna be a spoiler. So I think that everyone should play this. I don't know anyone who would like absolutely hate this. I can't think of a reason why.
Oh, there's contrarian morons out there who are gonna, just because it's a big indie, it's a big indie darling.
Right.
So there's gonna be a backlash about it. Like, just wait for the people to come through and do so. But it's I think everyone at least needs to give it a shot.
In the same sense that Portal, is a video game for anybody who thinks they're interested in video games in any sense. Like, there's a 99.99% chance you're going to think it's fantastic.
Yeah, or at the very least interesting. Like, we'll talk about the things that I love about the end of the story. I could see people just being like not digging the things I dug about it. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, but the scene to scene play is like,
it's really good.
Yeah, there's no reason to hate it.
I like it better than I like any other puzzle platformer. Yeah. Or almost any other, like, if it's a platform. Like, I don't consider Portal to be a puzzle platformer. If we do, like, Portal's one of the best games of all time. But, like, Portal's perfect. But this is, like, I like this better than, Braid. I like it better than Out of This World, which is, like, it's kind of got a lot of DNA with that, actually.
Right.
And I love Out of This World. And I think this is a better game. I like it more than Fez. Like, it is really up there for me in this genre. So great work. And like I said, I would not have felt bad if I spent money on this, and hopefully talking about it can encourage some other people to buy it and send these people some money, because I want them to make more of these.
Yeah. I had zero problems paying the money I paid for this. It is a quality experience. So, all right, let's get into a little bit of admin stuff so that we can wax the actual sugar that we've been aching to wax this whole time.
Yes.
So, Gary, how can these guys support us?
The most direct way is to go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You can support the entire network. If you listen to this, you probably listen to other shows on the network according to our kind of metrics. So if you want to support those shows as well as this show, it pays for us to get games when developers are not nice enough to give them to us. So this allows you to do that. It also allows us, so we got this was an emergency kind of thing that we bought because we were planning to do something else, as you know from last episode.
Right.
We threw this in there because we had money from Patreon. We didn't have to pay our own, Nick did not have to pay his own money to buy this.
Right.
So that is because of that specifically. So patreon.com/DuckFeedTV, a couple bucks a month makes a big difference. You can join us in Slack and have those conversations about this amazing animation. There's an indie game channel on there that is the de facto Check It Out Comrade channel.
Yep.
And we'd love to have you.
Yeah, it's a great hangout. People are in there all the time, and that's where this came up. Was Allison, big friend of the network, who's been on shows and everything. She just came in and was like, "Hey, Gary and Nick, please play Limbo, please play Inside and talk about the ending." Yeah, they were like, "Okay, sure."
Yeah, we'll do, because I just, and also, man, what a perfectly lengthed game too.
Yeah,
like this is perfect for this.
So good.
So.
All right. You can also find us on Facebook.com/Comrade or Check It Out Comrade, and on Twitter @Comrade Podcast. If you have any recommendations, feel free to go there or to the Duckfeed.tv contact page. We definitely, mark all those down and put them in our list of potential future games to pull from.
Indeed. That's probably pretty good. Ratings, reviews on iTunes are also helpful. It's been a little while since we had one, and that helps more people learn about the show and tell people about it. If you like the show, tell your friends.
And on that note, every time I see one of the reviews come through, because we have set up so that we get notifications when those come through, my heart just swells. Like, everybody who has reviewed is like so amazingly sweet about the things they have to say about our goofy little podcast where we talk about games we like. So yeah, thank you guys so much who has reviewed it, and if you want to make us feel all giddy inside, that's the place to do it. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Really do appreciate it. So yeah, brief music sting, and then we're going to talk about the story of Inside and why the ending is so cool and the greatest animation in video game history. So what do we know about the story of this? From what it seems, there's the government or some weird agency or something is gathering up people, or making people essentially brain dead, and then has the ability to control them using these helmets, and they're collecting them to do some sort of research or weird body shit to them. And that's about all I've gotten. Yeah, that's not known, which I really like. Because it is evoking these kind of sci-fi tropes without, it's doing the thing that it makes sense that these guys like Dark Souls and consequently Bonfireside Chat, I guess, is that they, it's not filling in all the blanks. So you just kind of get this sense and tone of apocalyptic, like some kind of post-apocalyptic government kind of in science camp environment. People are controlled by this helmet. We're going to get to a little bit more with that when we get to this alternate ending. And they just kind of become these puppets. These they look like, and we're going to play this at some point, they look like the gang beasts. Yeah, they're all flopping around. Yeah, they look like gang beasts. You control a gang of gang beasts. Yep. There's all these weird little touches about your character, that there's something special with you. Animals gather towards you, like fish and chicks and stuff like that, all gather around you. No matter, and there's a change that happens where you get a power later, but even before that, animals are attracted to you. And you're just making your way to try to, you don't really know what you're doing. At first it seems like you're escaping a lab, but you actually go into it. Right. You're not there to escape a lab. You are not trying to get away or run away. And that's the intrigue of most of the game is, I'm obviously going somewhere, but where is this kid escaping to? Because you were running away from people at the start, and most of the time after the first maybe third or half of the game, you're not being chased so much anymore as avoiding detection systems and such. Yes. So you made your escape. Why are you going into something now? Why are you getting into deeper trouble if you were just trying to run away. Clearly, he has some bigger goal in mind.
And there's an answer that kind of comes through. As you make your way through here, let's do the macro story, what happens, and then talk about some individual little scenelets and stuff.
Okay.
Mechanics. So eventually you get further and further into this compound. There's some kind of like weird bombing going on. Or some kind of like whatever those depth charge things.
Yeah,
so
there's the wave things.
Yeah, there's some kind of like I have this feeling of like catastrophe of some kind in the world, until eventually you make your way in the last half hour of the game. You get really deep into this complex and find all these scientists who are ignoring you because they're drawn towards watching this tank.
Yep.
Which at first you can't see what they're watching, but you actually have to get into the tank, the only way forward. And you find inside like a granfaloon, like a conglomeration of people and parts.
Yep.
Like a flesh shoggoth.
Yep, a big ball of limbs and bodies and faces all floating freely in this water.
Yes. And the cool thing that happens, the twist to this game, is you try to free it. And at this point, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe the reason why I went back into this complex was to get revenge. I'm freeing this thing so to spite these scientists or whatever. You pull out these, everyone's watching you and kind of freaking out that you're swimming through there.
Right.
You start unplugging things from the Shoggoth until you get to the fourth one. And as you are pulling it, and everyone you do, they kind of grab you and kind of tug you, and it's harder and harder to get away until the fourth one, they suck you into the middle of this. And then you have joined this collective, and you control the last half hour of the game as this big, fleshy collection of arms and legs and heads.
And this is where we were talking about as like the greatest feat of animation, because you're moving an entire group of bodies, and each time you do, like, the feet as that side is like coming towards the ground will like reach out and plant their feet on it, and now you're standing on the feet of these, and then you move on to the next feet, and it is the craziest feat of animation and like straight up programming I've ever seen. Like this should be a tech demo in itself. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive. You have to do all these, and your verb set changes when you're this thing. You're essentially invincible, so you get a lot of revenge kind of on these scientists, but you also still have to make your way forward. And you know, you can kind of stretch. You can kind of climb up on things like Katamari. It has the same kind of physics and feel of when you try to roll a Katamari up a ledge.
Yeah.
And you can throw things up above you. And there's a part, the greatest animation is when you're balancing the stick. You find a 2x4 that you need to like tilt vertically and then throw up to hit a button.
And all the arms are like working in tandem to move
balance
it up the whole pile.
Yeah, to move it up the thing and then kind of balance it. And it just looks so good.
How do they do this? It is so amazing.
It's really, really impressive the way this looks. And eventually the scientists start helping you here, and I think they just want you out.
Yeah, they're just trying to get rid of you.
And then you escape as this thing, and you're still alive, and the game ends. Like, you've made it out as the Shoggoth. There's no explanation or anything like that.
Yeah, you just get a pretty view at the seaside from atop a cliff, a grassy knoll.
Yep.
and the game ends.
And the game ends. And that's the main ending you get, which is important to even understanding the alternate ending. So the alternate ending, what's really awesome about this is the alternate ending, you unlock a little bunker that's down below an area, and you unlock and find this code. You take this code, you get one of these helmets, these mind control helmets that control these kind of flesh things, you know, these zombies, these gang beasts, and you kind of tear it off the wall and break it at some point. And when you break this, your character turns into one of these zombies. So one, they're doing all kinds of cool stuff with the fact that like when you play a video game, like you are just controlling one of these things. You know, like we may as well have a helmet on our main character to make him do these things. If you get metatextual, but even within the world, there's a really good chance that like the Shoggoth thing is the person controlling you at this point and driving you to free it. You know, that's your entire goal the entire time, controlling you or controlling the player to control you. Because they introduce, like really cleverly, they introduce you being able to control things with the helmet, and then you being able to control things through 2 degrees of separation. That only happens once, where you control a guy who puts on a helmet who controls another guy.
Right.
There's one puzzle that's really memorable, and the fact that like it only happens once.
I think twice actually. I think there's two of the two of the extra puzzles.
Oh yeah. I forgot about the bonus ones. In the main game though, you only run into it once.
Yeah.
But it's important to control that or introduce that idea, because this idea that this star child or whatever in the water, this new being, is controlling the player to control the character. To do that, because that's what a video game does, like it drives you towards the ending,
right?
Getting you to play it is really cool.
It's
like what a
cool.
clever like it's like a BioShocky kind of thing. Like it's been that kind of read has been done on a game before, but it's really really cool to kind of introduce these layers of remove so elegantly.
Yeah, and it's just like elegance great. It's like a perfect fourth wall break. Like I don't. It's not in your face. It's not like jokey. It's just like. And also the video game, like just putting that final stamp on it as sort of a final say, and only for people who want to put the extra time and effort into
exactly
it.
Those variable win conditions, right, where you can just kind of get through the game and have kind of a fun, kind of funny and goofy experience, or you can have this kind of like think about it more if you want to.
Right.
It supports it. It's not mandatory, and that's the way the game should be. As far as like I mean, what was your like read on it? Like, what did you think about why you were doing things, and what did you make of the weird Shaga thing at the end?
Well, so for most of the game, I kind of figured I was trying to free like my parents or something. Like, I took the childhood element to be like, well, what is this kid doing on its own, and where does he go? I assumed it after this control method came in that I was trying to do something towards stopping that, if not for everyone, but for perhaps for specific people that I lost to this government group or what have you.
Yeah.
When I got to the Shoggoth and what was going on there, I didn't really have too much of a read on it. I think until the other ending, like I didn't really bother thinking about why the kid was getting in there. I didn't think about him being controlled up to that point. My assumption by the ending was that this was sort of their end goal, and that this was just the ultimate sort of fuck you to this group that's controlling these people.
It exists as such too. Like it's like you do really fuck them over and kill many of them.
Right.
And it works on that level too. Like it doesn't, all the wanky stuff I'm saying about it being about player control in video games in general, is all optional. Like it doesn't have to, that doesn't need to be even part of the read. Did you, what is, as far as like individual kind of creatures or moments or like things that happened, like what are some memorable ones that, we maybe haven't brought up?
So you talked about the chicks following you. That's one of the very early scenes in the game. And that one like made me really cheery when they started following me around. I was like, oh, I've got friends. And then when I came to like the big machine thing and hit, sort of the end of that wall that you hit in front of the machine, I was like, please tell me I don't have to go kill all these things and sacrifice my little buddies in order to get past this puzzle. And then when they got vacuumed up and were used as little weights and they were safe and fine, I was happy again.
Well,
so.
One of them isn't.
What?
Like when you're walking around, there's a runt. Just talking about the animation, there's one chick that always will follow behind you. I did this twice. Like I reloaded it, and after you do the puzzle and you blast them all through the thing, one of them stops moving.
No, I didn't know that.
Just one of them though. Almost everybody's okay, but one of them dies.
Aw.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what scenes were that? I think that was my favorite early on scene.
Yeah.
But what else? What other scenes did reach out to you?
Like really early on, I love running into the dead pigs.
Yeah.
In the yard, and the one you kind of get this when I was talking about the environmental storytelling. You see how they get this mind control thing because there's like a parasite that they're using to control, and it makes this like pig go crazy. It's like this worm that hangs out of its butt.
Yeah.
And that is where this technology came from. Like you can suppose, like you can see a line of a bunch of dead pigs. Like pigs are oftentimes used for medical testing because they catch diseases really easily.
Right. And they have very similar biology to us.
Yeah. Long pig. And then they tested the worms on the pigs. And then as you move forward into the center, you see the results of that, which is turning people into these things. You never see like these worms on these people,
Right.
but you can presuppose that's kind of what they're doing.
That's really good. Yeah, I didn't read into that to that point. I just sort of took the mind control worm, or the aggravating worm in the pig, as sort of just part of this dystopian setting we're in.
Yeah, it's a real Dark Soulsy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like looking at the
connection between all that.
Yeah, and then later I love the section where you're in the bathysphere.
Yeah, that part's fun.
That's really fun. The bathysphere is like, that could have been a game, like exploring in this bathysphere. It has really satisfying physics.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping the mermaid
that was
things
a good
away
scene.
from you. That's really great. Like and those things being a threat inside the bathysphere. That is my favorite death animation, is them breaking you out of it.
Yeah.
And then you can't really see what it's doing to you, but you can kind of see.
Right.
And then later the twist when one of them actually, the way I read it was you are close enough to the Shaga thing that it's controlling the mermaid too.
Oh, yeah, I didn't...
Because it grants you those powers and stuff.
Right. I like that read on it too, because I kind of was at a miss for why they turned there.
Why they're good now.
Yeah, why that one decided to be friendly. So yeah, no, I like that read on that too. That's good.
That's my best guess.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's entertaining at least, so.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, this is a fucking great game, man.
I'm way into it. It's like, in my mind, it is up there with stuff we've done for the show with your Somas and your Pillars of Eternity and stuff.
Absolutely.
And God, I love that it's 3 hours. Like, you just sit down like you're gonna watch a movie, and just play this on a Saturday night, and you will have a good time. So. Yeah.
I'm sad that there isn't more for these guys already. Like having played Limbo and now this and seeing what they're capable of, it's
very, very, very impressive. And they've only done 2 games and there's a long time between them. So take your time, but it's going to be, I hope that they get all the success in this. So
absolutely.
I think that's about all I got to say.
Night, everyone.
All right. Good night, everybody.